Welcome to Film and Page. I'm Dominic, and this is another episode of Road to Dune. So I did a video a couple days ago about the whole Chani story and how people freaked out because of that interview where it was said that Chani was going to be the main protagonist, so everyone thought that Paul was going to get sidelined in his own movie in the second one. Anyway, in that article, there was actually two parts to that article. So the first one was talking about that, but the second one went into something I thought was pretty interesting, and I was going to cover it all in the one video, but I decided to actually split it into two videos. So I'm going to go back into that article that was put up by dunenews.net. And after they talked about the Zendaya story, they go into the design of Dune and some of Denis Villeneuve's influences design-wise on the movie. So I thought that was interesting, and if you know what the illustration is that I have up right now, then you know where this video is going. The interview also branched out into other interesting topics, including into the movie's ship designs. The director talked about influences that went into creating realistic ornithopters, the unique bird-like flying machines used throughout the Dune universe. Of course, Moebius influenced me enormously, as did many other authors of that magnificent magazine that was Metal Hurlant. I'm here today also thanks to them. They represent my main visual inspiration as a filmmaker. I didn't want hyper-technological flying machines. I wanted spaceships, and spaceships that looked like monoliths and were giant. I like the idea that architecture and transportation can make humans look like humble ants. So the machines in Dune were built with this monumental feeling of loneliness and oppression towards their users. There is something frightening about their size, and in this I followed Moebius' examples. Then, sticking to the book, the machines had to have wings like birds, and so I chose to go even further, prefiguring them as insects. I asked the designer, Patrice Vermetti, to make them look like beetles, but then to make them real machines and not Hollywood hoaxes, real functional flying machines. There are so many complicated elements in the film, from different factions to different cultures, from ruling families to religious orders, that the viewer has a lot of work to do. So I wanted the architecture and the vehicles to be understandable and easy to assimilate, and to help the audience embark on this journey. Now, if you don't know who the artist is that he's talking about, the artist Moebius, I'll give you a quick rundown of who he is. Jean Girard is a legendary comic book artist and writer born on May 8, 1938 in France. He also goes by the pen name Moebius. He is famous for his series Blueberry, The Inkle, whom he collaborated on with filmmaker Alejandro Jodorowsky. He has done work for Dark Horse Comics, Marvel Comics, Kitchen Sink Press, and Metal Hurlant. He unfortunately passed away in Paris, France in 2012 at the age of 73. So if you're in the comics at all, most people who are in the comics at least heard of Moebius or heard the name floating around. A lot of people know him. He's a comic book legend as far as his artwork is mind-blowing and out of this world. And there's not too many people that are his equivalent or even can match him that ever. He's like a fantastic artist. So his artwork is like really detailed and just something about it. It's just above a lot of other artists, and it really suits science fiction as well. I really like his artwork. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of his books. I find, maybe it's just my part of the world, but I've always found a lot of his stuff is hard to find and hard to get. So that I've always found a little bit frustrating, because a lot of the books that he's put out, like the Inkel and stuff like that, I've always wanted to read. But he did do a story for Marvel Comics, and that one I do have, and that's a story called Parable that he did with Stan Lee, and it's a Silver Surfer story, which I really liked, because Silver Surfer, that's one of my favorite Marvel characters. And the artwork is just really detailed and really suits the whole genre of science fiction. And when you look at it, it's just so, it's just so so much cut above the rest, especially the kind of stuff that's going on today. Like, people now, they use digital models, all this kind of stuff, but he didn't have any of that. And he could just make these like really detailed environments and like crowds, as you can see here, and like his drawings. Just look at just drawing here, it looks like it has a lot of depth to it, and it's just amazing. Also, the designs that he does are really good. All his creative designs are really out there. And what's interesting about this whole thing is that back in the 70s, when Alejandro Jodorowsky was doing his Dune movie, he actually brought Moebius on board to design all the characters for the film, costumes and all that, and do like illustrations on what the look of the film might be. So as you can see here, this is all his illustrations of the characters from the Dune movie that was in the works back in the 1970s. And you can see the Baron Harkonnen there in the center. And so it's really interesting, and like if they had gone in this direction, it would have been a pretty colorful movie. But the thing about Alejandro Jodorowsky, like his idea or his vision for Dune was so far off the plot of the book that it was just almost like something totally different, like to the point where I don't know why he wanted to call it Dune or make a Dune movie, because at that point it was starting to turn into something that he should have just made his own original thing, which I think he eventually did. Now, I'm not sure, I don't know this for sure, but I think he took all the ideas that he came up with for his Dune adaptation and then reworked them and made them into the comic book, The Inkle. And he worked on that with, as I said earlier, Moebius, and did all the illustrations for that. And from what I heard, that book is supposed to be a really, really good read. And the other thing that is interesting, that Denis Villeneuve took some influence away from Metal Hurlant magazine. Now, that is a famous comic magazine over in France that is a lot more risque than mainstream comics over here in the West, like way more adult, a lot more violence, a lot more sex. And the version they have of it over in the West here is, or over in Canada and the United States, it's called Heavy Metal Magazine. So that's what he's talking about. And now, I never bought too many heavy metal magazines because back in the day, where it was adult-oriented, I couldn't buy it. And bought a few issues here and there as a teenager and stuff. And it's the way the magazine is set up. It's like an anthology, so you get different stories and stuff in there. And some of the stories are actually really good. And one thing about those magazines, it's the artwork was always really out there. It was always so much more different looking, colored different, looked different than anything that Marvel or DC was offering. So it really brought you to a whole different experience. And that's another thing. If you ever get a chance to check out Heavy Metal Magazine, that's another magazine you can pick up. They still publish them today, but they've after being sold off and bought by new owners. So I don't know if the quality is the same or the storytelling is the same. I have no idea. But it used to be really good. And it's one of the, and they did that story that they based the Heavy Metal 2000 movie on, that starred Julie Strain and stuff like that, which I actually really liked that movie, and I reviewed it here on my channel a little while ago back there. But yeah, Moebius is a really fantastic artist, and one of my favorite comic book artists. The only thing, as I said before, is I found his stuff is hard to find over where I am. I do have the Silver Surfer book, The Parable, that he did with Stan Lee, and really enjoyed the illustrations for that. And this Dune movie, visually, I can't wait to see more of it. Just from the trailers, it looks really good. It looks really different. Like, it has its own unique stamp. It doesn't look anything like Star Wars, really, and it doesn't look anything like Star Trek. So it looks like something really original. And also, we have The Art and Soul of Dune that's going to be coming out soon, and that's one book I'm definitely going to pick up. It's actually going to be coming out right away here. So when that comes out for pre-order, I'm going to be getting that. But I find here all the different things that influence Denis Villeneuve as a filmmaker visually. I find all that stuff really fascinating. And I find it interesting that Moebius had such an impact on movies and comic books. He is this legendary comic book artist that not very many people can touch, if any can touch. But he did work on Alien, and his visual style influenced like movies like The Fifth Element, and on and on and on. And it would have been had a huge impact on that Dune movie if it had gotten made back in the 70s. But it's cool that his visual style is still having an influence on Dune right till this day. And I think that's pretty awesome. So if you ever get a chance, you have to check out some of his books or some of his work. It's totally worth it. So that's everything I got to say in this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and I will see you at the next one. I'd like to say thank you to all of my subscribers. I appreciate you all in helping this channel grow. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, don't forget to hit the bell icon so you'll be notified when new videos are uploaded.